Betsy Hodges, the 47th mayor of Minneapolis, once said, "I think our city's deteriorating infrastructure is a silent crisis." Keep this in mind as we discuss today the crumbling and dangerous infrastructure of the United States. My name is Dr. David Waralu.
And my name is Dr. Ross Stewart.
And you are watching Geopolitics in Conflict.
Have you any time recently driven over a bridge and felt kind of scared? Have you seen deteriorating highways? Have you looked at the rail system? I was driving in New York City on a consulting project, and I was driving east to west on one of the cross streets. I hit a pothole that was so deep and so long that it blew out two of my tires and ruined the wheels. And if this is going on in New York City, that is responsible for 10% of our gross domestic product, what must be going on in the rest of the country?
Wow, that's disturbing information, Ross. And as a matter of fact, just to talk about the crumbling infrastructure in the U.S., and we are not painting a dark image about America here. We are presenting facts because we care about the country and we wanted to bring this to the attention of our viewers, your attention for this. There are about 59,000 deteriorating bridges in the U.S. And that in itself, it's not only about the safety issue, but it's also about the economy. Infrastructure has a major impact on the economy.
That's really understating it. It has a huge impact. And what we're looking at is by 2025, the cost of this is going to be something like $4 trillion and 2.5 million jobs lost because of the poor infrastructure.
Yeah, and let alone that it'll impact every family in America for about $3,400 a year.
You multiply that by 10 years and all of a sudden, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. So that becomes the question of where is the government into all this? Why do politicians just provide in a lip service instead of fixing the problem? So it's almost like what we have become. It's just we talk so much, but there is no action.
And you know, there are other places in the world where the governments are taking action.
Countries like China, because of the infrastructure over there. So based on the research that I conducted about China for the last decade regarding their infrastructure, they have built, for example, have the largest railroad system. It's about 77,000 miles. You know,
that's huge.
Yeah, and within that, Ross, they had about 16,000 miles of high-speed rail.
And as I said to you before, and you may have heard it on other shows that we've done, I was on that rail system. It is magnificent. Smooth, comfortable, and fast.
Yeah, they reach about 250 miles an hour.
I tracked it on every car. They have the speed of the train.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, the whole idea of why we're bringing up China into this conversation here, to create a comparison between the infrastructure in China versus that of the U.S. And the interesting aspects about all this is that the Chinese government gets involved into the infrastructure when the economy was slowed down, because infrastructure is one of the only sectors that create two things. One is productivity, and second is employment.
Right.
So the problem in the U.S. is with this infrastructure crumbling, and there is no interventions from the government. In Congress, they just talk about the infrastructure bill, but nothing happens because it impacts also the employment. Can you just imagine if we sort of upgraded our infrastructure, what that's going to do to the job employment here in the U.S.?
I was talking to my younger brother who was with the state of Pennsylvania in the government for more than 20 years. And he said the Pennsylvania state government did research in terms of how much new infrastructure damage needed to be repaired every year for the last 10 years. He said, 2019, the damage that needed to be repaired was $5 billion.
Wow.
Unaddressed. Multiply it by 10. That's a lot of money.
It is a lot.
That's a lot of work. Yeah. That's a lot of jobs. And we also know that it's going to impact so many other portions of our economy.
That's correct. Well, this is tracks with what the American Society of Civil Engineers have disclosed in their report, indicating that between 2016 and 25, the U.S. will be losing about $1.7 trillion into this infrastructure if it doesn't get fixed. And you can just see why you need to understand that is your tax money that's been spent elsewhere rather than upgrading the infrastructure. The roads you and I drive on, the water we drink, the airports we go to, the train stations, if we ever use them, if we get a speed train and so forth.
You know, you take a look with just going on with trucking and the cost there every year.
Oh, that's a major one, Ross, because for those who are truck drivers, it costs the trucking industry about $60 billion a year. That's lost money. Can you just imagine the $60 billion reinvested back into the economy?
It also means that the cost of goods and services just went up by $60 billion.
Exactly, because now you got trucks waiting on bridges because the bridge has only one lane.
And it needs 6.
And it needs 6, you're right, because they're going to have to do that. So there are the problems with this infrastructure in the U.S. that really demands and require immediate attention.
So we look at the Congress and say, well, how come something isn't happening? This set of issues is not a secret anymore.
Yeah, well, Congress is useless because given the corruption that's going on in Congress, most members of Congress there is no trust. As a matter of fact, the latest report that I read about how we Americans, how we view Congress, the rating is at a single digit. That's how much we lost confidence in Congress completely. And how could it be when you have members that are serving for life when they shouldn't be? Oh. In a democracy, you're not supposed to have life appointments. We're not going to get into that. Some other time we will talk about this one. But for now, as far as the infrastructure, yeah, Congress is not taking up its responsibilities in ensuring the funding for the infrastructure that will create so many jobs in the American market.
You know, I was involved with a consulting project with a major airline. And locally, they wanted to put a speed train from Dallas to Houston, which is very reasonable. It's about a 3.5-hour drive, but it'd be an hour and 10-minute commute by speed train.
Wow.
And I got to see the internal politics as to how this worked. They put a dead stop on it because it would cut down on the air traffic between the two cities.
So those were the lobbyists pushing for...
Well, it was the oligarchs who did it. The power people said, we're not going to have it. They shook all the right hands, twisted all the right arms, and the project died. Right. And the thing was completely designed.
Wow.
And it was magnificent.
Well, now it makes perfect sense as far as why China was kicked out of the California project for the speed train when they were supposed to build a high-speed rail between Las Vegas and LA, which will cut down the time of traffic. I mean, if their high-speed trains go at 250 miles an hour, you can see where the benefits will be for something like that. So I can see now why that project was dead and China was kicked out because the U.S. government cited that there are some cost issues, whatever. You and I know that is not the truth. So basically the lobbyists didn't want the speed train to become part of the infrastructure in the United States.
A year or two ago, I decided I would like to do some investigation as to the rail system in the United States. So I contacted the rail company and travel company and said, I want to travel from Dallas to Seattle via rail. Make a guess as to how long it would take me to get there. Just make a wild guess.
23 hours?
2.5 days.
Whoa! And
I'm going, this is absolutely unacceptable. And what do you think the cost was? Don't even guess. It was way over $2,000.
Oh my gosh, that's gonna make me shake my head. I can't believe that.
And going, I could go to China and go that distance in 3.5 hours. And I took 10.5 days on the rail system in the United States.
For a fraction of the cost.
Oh,
because I did hear that there are certain, between cities, the cost doesn't go beyond 95 won, which is almost $95 for us.
It was remarkably inexpensive in China.
Wow.
Of course, the trains were full,
Yeah.
and it was absolutely the best way to get from one place to another.
Well, because that also brings the idea of, because for us Americans, we think that only the government can do this project. That's not the case. As a matter of fact, if the private sector gets involved into this project with the transparency, a lot of stuff can get done, and we will have a much upgraded infrastructure that you and I and all of us can benefit from. Unfortunately, the lobbyists are not allowing that.
Exactly. The lobbyists and the really powerful people just simply aren't allowing it. And so we can't count on government to do this for us. It has to be private industry and individuals that make this occur.
That's correct. Well, this brings the idea of how the industry will benefit from an upgraded infrastructure. Well, it's a lot. They will benefit tremendously from it. Not only for the facilitating the transport of commodities from one location to the other, the time frame, the way how the commodities are transported, but also the safety.
This is a really critical issue because recently in Ohio we saw a lot of people die when a bridge collapsed. So this is not some fantasy going to happen in the future. It's happening now. And with that 59,000 projects that really need to be done, the cost is, first of all, human lives. The second is that the economic impact, as we said a little while ago, is now in the trillions of dollars and the millions of jobs if this isn't remedied soon.
That's correct. Well, we hope that this information will provide you just to give you an idea that the crumbling of the infrastructure is not only the responsibility of the government, but also for us to be well informed about what's going on so we can talk to our representatives in Congress, a dysfunctional entity that is refusing to do the work.
Let me put another car in that train of thought.
Certainly.
It is certainly easy to be distracted by irrelevant topics. But when you start talking about the trillions of dollars involved, the millions of jobs involved, these are critical issues for Americans to pay attention to. Our future depends on it.
And as always, stay informed. Until next time. Bye-bye.